Right, ladies and gents, I would like to introduce you to a junior perfumer. He's just starting out his career. You can see this fresh-faced young boy who's just slid down the Swiss hills. What are you going to say?
I think I'm going to say that Darius, you're a horrible friend.
A horrible friend?
Yeah,
That's the best.
I mean, what kind of apprentice am I?
The one and only Monsieur Thierry Wasser, the guardian of Mitsouko and Shalimar and Apres L'Ondee. The perfumer at Guerlain is here with us, gracing us with his presence. Not live, because the signal isn't quite good enough for us to do it live, but I decided high quality recording is better than poor quality live. What you can't see, but maybe I'll put pictures afterwards, is that we're in a beautiful pop-up store in Covent Garden in London, and Thierry has very kindly given us some of his time to talk about I was going to see what was going to come. I'll tell you that there was one question that came consistently, because I mentioned the possibility that I might be seeing you. I mentioned it on my YouTube channel last week, and if there was one question that immediately came through, it was, I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. Are we ever likely to see the returns of the extrait of Apres L'Ondee and Nahema?
No. There is a very simple reason for that. They will be totally unlawful.
Right.
Because Apres L'Ondee basically has a couple of issues with toxicology, which is the methyl, the isoeugenol,
right.
That spicy note, which is carnation-like, and the rose in Nahema. There are so much rose in it that in the extrait, le parfum,
yeah.
you cannot make it viable with all that load of rose because of a molecule inside it, which allegedly is carcinogenic,
Right.
methyl-eugenol. So since the rose has that potential problem, you have to reduce the use of rose oil and rose absolute. And Nahema is such an odd to the rose. It's rose and rose and rose plus rose.
Rose. And some rose.
An addition of some.
Yeah.
You cannot produce it. I tried to work on the rose oil and absolute, and by molecular distillation you try to pull out that methyl-eugenol.
Right.
But the distortion of the scent is such that it's too noticeable, and instead of having a ersatz
Yeah.
of Nahema, we just have to stop it. You have eau de parfum, but unfortunately the extrait is gone.
So there's your answer. It's a sad answer, but from Monsieur Wasser we always get
No, but
the straight. No, and you've said it before, and I guess the line is we would rather not release Nahema or Apres L'Ondee rather than, as you say, do an ersatz one. So there's the answer to that one. Now this store that we're in is very much dedicated to the La Matière collection. I know that some of the classics are kind of hidden away here as well, but all of the displays about La Matière. I know that in the past you've expressed a fondness for the work of Jacques Guerlain particularly. I think you said that you like his handwriting.
yeah.
Out of this collection, which do you think would have been his favourite? Which one do you think would have drawn him the most?
Wow. Maybe I'm shooting in the dark.
Yeah, of course.
Because I didn't have Jacques Guerlain on the phone for a while, so we didn't discuss that.
He's busy rolling down the Swiss hills as well. Right?
Yeah, so I would think, obviously, Spiritueuse Double Vanille.
Yeah, good point.
Well, first of all, it has been designed by Jean-Paul.
Right.
So obviously there is a link not only with vanilla, but with the creator himself.
Right.
And I would say Tonka, Impérial, Neroli ou Trois Noirs.
So quite sort of classic, which makes sense, I suppose, that's what you would go for.
I go by association of idea because,
Sure.
frankly, I didn't expect such a question. So I don't.
No, but I think
So-
you're going for the ones that make sense.
Thank you.
No, but
Thank
you know what I mean?
Professor. Thank you very much. But yeah,
I can edit anything I like out of this
I
because
know.
it's not live.
I know.
No, but I think the answers you're giving are completely the sort of logical ones. We are hopefully coming out, fingers crossed. We are hopefully coming out of what has been a difficult period for everybody. I mean, globally, you know, with the pandemic situation and everything. How have the experiences of the last few months, year and a half, made you reflect on your work as a perfumer, or have they made you maybe change your style or your way of approaching it? Or?
No, first of all, I'm ashamed to say that I enjoy being bound at home, because it was, you know, the pace is so fast, it has been so fast, that suddenly to be forced to step back, I mean, I was thrilled to a certain extent, because you never have a moment to even think about having an introspective moment. You don't have that. So the time of reflection after almost 18 months of pandemic, but we were locked in France, actually, locked in.
Well, we say locked down, but
Okay,
locked in
down.
is probably actually more accurate. But
I would say that your lockdown is ridiculous. but
locked up,
in,
yeah.
Right. We were locked in for a couple of months, twice, and you take the time to have some kind of introspection. There is a serenity coming out of it, some revelation about what you miss. I miss a lot of my sourcing trips.
Right, because I know from your Instagram you enjoy doing all of those trips around the world, don't you? And of course that all had to stop.
It is like food for thought, because you realize that the fragrances are very humane, because you go in the field, you are confronted with agricultural problems, transformation problems, people who make the transformation, distillation or extraction, and you lose that humanity, you lose that brotherhood touch,
Yeah.
because you have those friends all around the planet that, okay, WhatsApp is interesting, but it's not the same thing. So it centered your gravity towards things which really matters, and you can discriminate what's important and what's not. It was a very interesting time, actually.
Interesting you brought that up. I'm going to ask this question, but we may not go anywhere with you because maybe there isn't actually an answer. It is my understanding, it may not be a correct understanding, but it is my understanding that because of all of the knock-on effects of the pandemic, because, for instance, fragrance compounding houses or fragrance raw material manufacturers were not buying as much of the raw material as they would have been in the past, that a lot of the people who would have been growing certain things used in perfumery thought, oh my goodness, we'd better grow something else because we need to make our income in a different way, and so they have. And so we may potentially be facing a shortage of certain perfumery raw materials. Is that correct?
Not really to my knowledge,
Okay.
because once again, that was such an unexpected, not even unthinkable
Event. Yeah.
mercy, such an unthinkable event that no one was prepared for that. And of course, if you don't pick the flowers, gatherers and farmers are not paid, and you put them in a situation. So you have to put pressure on the transformer to buy the flowers and to make the oil or the absolute, to make sure that at least the growers are okay. But after those transformers have a stock of raw materials, and if you don't buy anything, so we have to get compromises there, and everybody has to make an effort. So to my knowledge, no one shift growing this for that.
Okay.
Because first of all, since they are seasonable products, you cannot react that fast in 1 or 2 crops.
Okay.
So in my opinion, this is not correct.
No, okay, fair enough. Which part of the world did you miss the most for your sourcing trips? If there's one that you really could have gone to.
Well, I don't want to sound corny, but all of them, because they're all different.
Yeah.
You know, once again, if you have to choose among your friends, it means that you're a bad friend. You don't choose among your friends. So if you go to Sri Lanka, to South India, to Latin America, if you go to Bulgaria, if you go to Turkey, if you go on and on, you miss them all.
Yeah.
Because to sustain the friendship, the partnership, okay, as I said before, you had WhatsApp, which was a great help for that. But this is what relationships are all about. And sourcing, please note that sourcing is incredibly humane and lies on relationships.
And trust as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's part of it. So you build the trust through those relationships, and you cannot be a deceiving friend. That's why also we had to make compromise with the transformers to say, okay, please, come on, don't leave all those flowers on the bushes. People need to gather the flowers to get the paint.
Okay. I'm very, very curious about the dynamic of your relationship with Delphine Jelk, because she's very much now credited as a author or co-author of a lot of the perfumes. How does it work, like on a practical level? Do you sometimes have meetings where you kind of look at the list of upcoming releases and you go, you do that aqua allegory, I'll do that aqua allegory, what does it look like?
Well, first of all, the way of working with 4 hands.
Yeah. 2 noses.
Or two noses, exactly, is not exactly news to me, because I spent a lot of time in my previous life at Firmenich working with Annick Menaldo.
Right.
And the way we did work with Annick Menaldo has a special place in my heart. Okay. They called us Pépère et Mémère at Firmenich.
Pépère et Mémère?
Yeah.
For those of us who don't...
Daddy and mommy, or I don't know.
But like an acute way, is that?
Yeah, of course. Because we were like...
Were you Mémère or Pépère?
I wish I knew. I think I was more Mémère than Pépère.
Okay, right. I had to ask.
That's a very good question.
Based on Annick's perfumes, I think she's probably the Pépère.
I agree. I tend to agree.
Okay,
actually,
but
that's a valid question.
Okay, I'm going to just adjust this a little. Anyway, so go on.
Very good one. I love that one.
Okay.
And between Pépère and Mémère, there were a lot of love and trust, which is for life. Good. It is something which is engraved in you. And when I jumped from Firmenich to Guerlain, I very quickly realized that you cannot be creating fragrances, being in charge of manufacturing, sourcing, and eventually PR to meet Darius here and
doing
there.
all these. Well, no, but it's true. This takes up a lot of your time, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day,
we're grateful, but it's our time.
Things, you definitely see that you need help somewhere. And since it was not sourcing, manufacturing, etc., and Delphine was working with Sylvain Delacourte and Anne-Caroline Brazon at the time, she was already acquainted with the house, and obviously Delphine is super talented. And when you understand or you feel that there is a gem, I mean, why would you ignore it? So she's the perfect candidate to join Guerlain.
Because just on a practical level, do you work on perfumes separately? And then, for example, she brings some mods to you and says, Thierry, what do you think? I'm working on rose or something, or do you actually, work collaboratively on every single one?
No, working collaboratively in every single one is humanly impossible.
Okay.
Because you need to express, creating fragrances is about expressing something.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot express something with two voices, I think. We are not in a duet at an opera.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot harmoniously speak two different stories.
So you're two
on a
soloists in the same opera?
I guess.
Okay.
That's how I would put it.
Are there any aspects of your style that she kind of brings out, and vice versa? Like, for example, I'm this is not a specific example. I'm just thinking, if you make something, does she sometimes say, "Oh, you've made it so green again, Thierry"? With I don't know. Are there some signatures that you guys bring out of each other, or?
Yeah, well, obviously, she's got already enough character to have a personality and a signature, and either you respect that because you believe, or you don't and you amend. But at the end of the day, everybody's got a role, and don't forget one thing: is that you're not alone. There is a team around you, because when you are creating your fragrance, very often you are so much in your project that you lose perspective.
Right.
And you need a team around you to sometimes put some perspective back. So all those questions are, how does it function as a whole team, is behind the fact that there is a Delphine and a Thierry. I mean, at the end of the day, tomorrow there will be somebody else, and the whole thing is going to continue.
Can't get away from the fact that Guerlain is so loved and adored for its classic perfumes. From those big names that we know, which of them is the most difficult to keep intact at the moment? We've already talked about that. We've sort of basically, for the moment, lost Nahema and Apres L'Ondee. Which is the one where you're kind of fighting hard to try and?
We have been tremendously challenged by the IFRA 49 and now IFRA 50. The ban of Lilial was a huge blow for us. And because you understand that this molecule is so versatile. Okay, it's a floral aldehydic note, but it has that green aspect, it has that aldehydic aspect, it has such a diffusive quality, it has such a long-lasting quality that it was like almost impossible to get a... Yes. So you have to have a bag of tricks that you apply to each and single fragrance that you worked on to rebalance some elements in it, plus the substitute of Lilial.
Right.
So in that you had all the florals.
Right.
So, but I think we did overcome without too much damage, because once again, you don't need to replace an ingredient A by B. You have to find an effect. And if you understand that, I think you get successful in the reformulation of especially vintage fragrances.
Yeah. No, and you've been very, very successful, I think, with things like Mitsouko. I remember you've talked about it before when you've
Yeah, because you have to know the law, and you walk at the edge of the border.
and do what you can.
Very often you want to take a step back from that edge, but if the law is here, I don't see why you have to step back. So you go on the edge, you're lawful, you're correct, and the aesthetic of the fragrance is respected. But once again, I think the legislator thinks that our industry is vain. That's why it needs to be so tightly controlled. But I think it's an error of appreciation.
Okay.
If you think that it is a piece of art which has a life for people, you would understand that those variations that you suggest or you impose are more serious than you might think.
Okay. Yep. One final question, just to kind of say like a thank you in a question almost. It's a shame that we couldn't do this live, but as I said, I think it's better doing a proper recording, because if we had done it live, you, I'm sure, would have seen lots and lots of comments popping up showing so much appreciation for what you do in terms of guarding these past, these classic fragrances. There is so much love and admiration for what you have done, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, because I know a lot of you watching this video eventually will agree with me. So given all of that, what's your sort of final one-line message to the real hardcore perfume lovers out there? Is the future of perfumery bright? Is it beautifully scented? Should we be optimistic?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Good.
There is no doubt in my mind that this art form of expression will continue. Yeah. Why would you mute us?
That's a good note on which to end. Thank you so much for your time. It's been fantastic seeing you looking so well and healthy, and thank you very much for watching.